that up, and then I'll switch in some of the LMAX and Globe Trotters and some of that stuff, some of the lower powered stuff. I believe that little automatic A-54 will be about it only puts out 10 watts with that oversized many turns of load coil. But I believe it'll be about right to drive that alpha amp at 10 watts.
That's for sure. Okay, I've got it going here. I got most of that transmission, I believe, and yeah, I've got the synchronous mode on because with the just straight AM, I'm getting all kinds of selective fading from your carrier and the audio. But synchronous mode, boy, it just sounds great, and I've got it on 11 kC bandwidth. Opened her up, turned off the noise reduction and all that good stuff. So, sounding pretty good. WB4NKL on the DX-100. This is N4LQ on the AF-68 LMAC.
N4LQ, it's WB4NKL. Good deal, Steve. Check that out after a while. I'm running the Collins 75S3 receiver here now, S3B. And I need to get some different boat anchors in line. I've got to start getting something ready to bring down to Shelby. I've got a few things I need to bring. I ended up with another Ranger in a trade the other day. I need to check it out and see if it works okay. And a few other things. Save a little bit of room for Mark. He always has something to add to it. But looking forward to it. I'll have to start on that about Monday and start the van load. See what all I can come up with.
Well, according to Dave, I'm still not sure what day he's arriving, but I thought he changed it to Tuesday. I don't know how he gets his spot reserved, but he's always right there at the entrance where you come in down the bottom of that ramp, where you start into the to the track area, and maybe he's got somebody else that comes in and reserves that for him. I don't know, but he uses several spots, and I don't know. He's got a trailer and a camper and all that, and a big awning. It's always nice and cool under there. Nice place to hang out. I don't know. I'll probably find me an awning to duck under somewhere, because I don't usually. All I do is put some stuff in the back of the truck and open up the tailgate, and I don't try to get a lot of money for things, but I'll probably try to sell a few widgets. I still got that DX-40, and that thing's working pretty good. I need to sell that. And let's see, do I still have the Cheyenne? I think I do. I think I still got the Cheyenne, so I need to move that out too. Anyway, yeah, we're live streaming now, public, and let me see here. I can one of the things I can do with this is to see if anybody else. There's 6 people watching it. Well, hello there, 6 people watching. One of them's me. I don't know who the other ones are. Usually by the end of the day on these videos, there'll be over 100 views. So it's I got an email from a guy who responded to it the other day, and he thanked me for doing this. He said, I usually listen to them when I'm driving to work, and I thought, well, that's an entertaining way to go to work, to listen to some boat anchors. N4LQ.
Yeah, good deal. It's WB4NKL. Might get some more interest in ham radio. You'd be surprised how many shortwave listeners are out there. I've been approached by a couple of them at ham. looked me up and said, you know, I'm not a ham, but I'm a shortwave listener, and I listen to you all the time, but quite a few listeners, which is good. I used to be one of them years ago, I guess, when I got started. Now, that little Cheyenne, I thought that might have been a keeper. You didn't run it too much, Steve.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't run it much at all. I don't know. I just, there's something about it that it just didn't drive me crazy like the LMAX do. Of course, that, what is that? That's some form of control carrier modulation. It's the same basic thing as the DX-60, but it's missing that cathode resistor in the modulator. That's the main thing they did, was just put that in there in the DX-60, and they call it control carrier modulation on both of them. So I don't know. There's a lot of resemblance between screen grid modulation and control carrier, and there seems to be an overlap between the definition of the two. Of course, they're both controlling the screen voltage or the screen current, and I would say that the Cheyenne, without that resistor, it is strictly controlling the current of the screen of the final, because all the screen current has to go through that 12BY7. Now in the DX-60, they've got that cathode resistor, and there's a voltage dividing going on between the top of that resistor and the cathode. So you could probably reason that it's controlling the screen voltage, which in turn controls the screen current. So, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
It sounds like just a little bit different way of doing it. Same thing. It looks like, I mean, you're modulating the screen. I guess it just depends on how much one of them you got more carrier. I don't like the sound. I've never heard one of those Drake rigs, whatever they're doing. I've never heard one of those that I like the sound of. I don't know if that's, I never looked at that close, if that's screen modulation or if they're doing something back to balance modulator. But I've never heard one of those that I was impressed with.
I looked at the schematic for the T4X transmitter, and it modulates the driver for the driver before the final. It doesn't modulate the final, so they're using the PA as a linear amplifier, and consequently there's not a lot of RF to deal with. I guess it operates Class A when that happens, and very low power coming out, like 5 watts or something, and then when you talk it jumps way up there. So that's what causes everybody's S meter to swing up and down. Now the TR4 transceiver doesn't do that, and I believe it's screen modulation, I think. So it probably sounds better, although mostly what I've heard is the twins, and no, they're not. They're no good for AM. I've never heard one yet that sounds very good because of the way they got it set up. I'm not sure why they did that, other than they're using sweep tubes and they just didn't feel like they could handle continuous RF for much time. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4NKL. Yeah, that's you can tell when one of them's on the air. The S meter swings way up, but they just don't have the audio quality the way they're doing it. So, I don't know, but I was looking at a 73 magazine. I'll have to look back. I think it's 73. There was a company that sold a screen modulator, and they had a review of it and had the schematic and everything in it. But it was designed to work with any kind of a transmitter. They had a, pintoed output tube. You went in and hooked this little external box up to the modulator. And I've never seen one at a ham fest. I thought if I ever seen one, I'd pick it up, play with it. It's a little compact thing, and that's all it did was, and it had a carrier level. You could control the carrier level and the modulation. Can't remember the company that built it right now, but they maybe never did sell any of them. It was in about a 1963 73 magazine.
Well, when I was a kid and got my General, I got a screen modulator, and it was used, and I don't know where I got it, but it was some kind of a crude-looking little kit with a couple of tubes on a little bud box, and you had to wire it in, which I did, and I had no idea what it sounded like or anything, but I did make some contacts with it, and nobody complained. Now that Viking Navigator that I bought at Waynesville, and you saw that one, that guy had built up a really nice looking modulator for it. And why in the world somebody wanted to modulate a Viking Navigator, I don't know, because he ended up drilling an extra hole in the back, and I used it for a ground lug, but so it's not too noticeable. I ripped all that stuff out, but that he had the article in his manual, and I got the manual and the notes and everything. It came out of an old QST, I think, but it was a cathode modulator for low-powered CW rigs. And basically the idea was you put a 1/4-inch foam plug on the end of the output cable, and when you're ready to use it, you just unplug your key and plug that thing in, and you're done. And it modulated whatever was in series with it. So that what he did was put another jack on the modulator for the keys, so you could use it on CW and voice that way. I hooked it up here and tried it, and I didn't think it sounded all that great. I mean, it worked to an extent, but the modulation percentage wasn't really high enough for my liking. And besides that, I'm kind of that's a valuable transmitter. Those are hard to find and usually sell for a lot more than what I paid for it. So everything on it is original and looks real nice, except for the meter, and I think most of those meters failed after a while, and they weren't any good to begin with. They were just that iron vein type meter or whatever, and they jumped around and banged and vibrated and carried on. And so I'm going to turn this. I overdrive this SDR, and I know it's distorting when I talk, and then I got to remember to turn the RF gain back up on it when you start talking. And when I first started this, I forgot I had the audio turned on the website, and I was hearing myself, so that probably messed up part of the recording. You hear an echo in there. There's a huge delay when you talk, and by the time it comes out on the internet, I bet there's every bit of 5 seconds delay. So, I don't know. It's the WB4NKL, N4LQ. It's
WB4NKL. It really messes you up if you're trying to listen to yourself. That kind of delay. It might not be as bad as a short delay, though. My novice transmitter was a Kit T60, and it had AM sort of screen modulation, like similar to the DX-60, I guess. Seemed like I did play around with it back in the day, and I've got one of those now. I'll have to get it out and give it a try sometime. But it didn't even, you didn't even monitor the plate current on it. It had a relative output meter. I don't know if you've ever played around with one of them or not. It just had a field strength meter, I guess you'd call it. And I used it on CW. Did the job back in the day, mostly on 40 meters. CW. Larry had a Kit T50, the earlier version, had that iron vane meter that slept around. Went crazy. I think I've got one of those over here too. And I've got one of the ICO modulators that you could put on any rig. I've got the ICO 730, I believe it is, it goes with, and the ICO is a standalone modulator. You could plate modulate any kind of a little transmitter. So lots of possibilities on different stuff to run. That ICO would probably sound pretty good. It looks like one of their hi-fi amps. It's got this EL34 push-pull tubes and a big old modulation transformer. I'll have to rig it up on something and give it a try one day.
Roger, I don't think I've ever heard the ICO on AM. Back 6 or 8 years ago, I got hold of one somewhere, modulators, ICO 720 transmitter, and that copper paint on the front, around the front panel, was all rusted out. So I sanded that down and went to Lowe's, I believe it was, and I got a can of gold spray paint, or copper. It was copper spray paint. And I sprayed that thing, and it came out looking like $1 million. I couldn't believe it. Perfect match. And then I think that modulator didn't come with the tubes, and I wasn't interested at the time in doing anything about it, so I sold it. Most of them didn't have tubes that were floating around. If one had tubes, they wouldn't be in there for long, because all the audio files went after them. Of course, you could take them out of an Apache, I guess, stick them in there, same tube. But I would say that would probably sound pretty good, a plate modulated 6146. I've just never heard one on the air. I believe that had a sort of a magic eye tube. It looked like a level bubble or something, that what do you call it, that closed when you talk. Now the Kit T60, I never had one of those. I had a friend that had one, and I went to his house one time, and it was a pretty miserable sounding thing on CW. I mean, he was trying to use a bug with it, and a bug just, that just brings out the worst in a transmitter because of the contact resistance and all that. And if there's any clicks or chirps, it's gonna show up, and it sounded pretty bad. Let's see, at the time I was using the DX-20. It probably didn't sound much better, and that had the iron vein. I've got a nice DX-20. I got one just for nostalgic purposes. Never even fired it up. It's sitting up here on the shelf, but I finally found one that was pristine. Even had that crystal cover knob thing that went on it. So I grabbed it, and I think I paid just a little bit more than usual for it, but I just thought, well, it looks better than the one I had in 1963 anyway. And somewhere along the line, when I first got my General, there was a gentleman, Ham, that I knew, that he was an older fella, and I wanted to get on phone, and he loaned me a T100, night kit T100, and I thought, wow, that thing is beautiful. That is one pretty transmitter. I brought that home and tuned her up, got on CW, and about a week later I got a pink ticket from the FCC, the first and only time I'd ever heard anything from them, and said I was out of band, I guess it was a harmonic. I think I was on 80 meters and I was up above 40 on the harmonic, and boy, I don't know. I later have read that was pretty common for that rig, and I don't know if it's because of where you dipped the plate in the wrong place, or I think that probably was what it was. It's one of those two dippers where you could get two dips out of it, and I chose the wrong one. Oh, my WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4NKL, yeah. That's possible. I was reading something about that transmitter too. Even when it's tuned right, it had a pretty good second harmonic. I think they overcoupled, something was overcoupled in it. In the article I was reading, it was recommending you reduce the capacitor value to help that out. I believe that was an electric radio article. It's talking about that transmitter. But luckily I never did get a pink ticket. Or I maybe did get a OO report one time, seems like, back in the day, for something. I can't remember what it was now. But that little T60, I didn't have a SWR meter, or just cut a 40-meter dipole by the formula and hung it up between two trees. Took the little T60 up to it and built a little homemade relay, and used my SX-18 Hallicrafters. That was my dad's, and that was my novice station. I did get it wasn't a big improvement, but I got a Hallicrafters HA-600 for Christmas that year. It might have been a step back, but solid state rig, receiver, general coverage. But used that for a while too, before I got to general and stepped up to a sideband rig. Then when I got my general, got a National NCX3 from a friend here in Greenville, and run that a lot for a while. And then wasn't too long after that I built one of the Heathkit HW101s, I think.
Yeah, I did too. Let's see, I got the 101 and that would have been 74 or so, I guess. I think it was $259 for the kit, and then the power supply on top of that. And that was a lot of money back then for anything, I guess. Especially, well, let's see, I bought a brand new, in 1971, I bought a brand new Opel Kadett sedan deluxe, and the sticker price on it was $2,113. And the reason it was the deluxe was because it had floor mats, and that was it. Stick shift, no power, anything. But that little booger got 35 miles a gallon and $2,100. Yeah. And then I also had a 70 Torino that I bought new, and now that thing was more expensive. That was about $4,000 back then. But the Opel was a lot cheaper. I traded down for that Opel because wife got pregnant, and we found a house we wanted to buy and so forth, and tried to get the the outgoing funds as low as we could. So we bought our first house, and that was $10,500, 1970, for that house. That was 2 bedrooms and a bath, you know, little house. But I dug a basement out from under it, and there I am distorting again. Got the basement dug out, built a ham shack and a laundry room and a nice family room down there, and put sliding glass doors in for walking out, built stairs, everything. It was my first big project, and I didn't know a lot. I had to go to the library and check out books on how to mix concrete, how to lay blocks, etc., etc. Building the stairs, I couldn't figure that out. So I got a guy that taught carpentry at the vocational school where I was teaching, and he came out and laid the stringers out for me, and then I put them all together. So that was great. On the NCX3, yeah, I had a bad experience with that. That was the first sideband thing that I ever got, and of course I was doing strictly CW back then, big time. I was net control for the traffic nets and all that, and I thought, hey man, it cat's meow. It's got CW, and I can do sideband if I want to, and transceiver and all that. So I brought that thing home. I traded in my 75A1 and pacemaker for that thing, and got it home and hooked it up. Quickly discovered that there was no offset for CW. So if you tuned the guy in to the right pitch, you were zero beat with him. wasn't any RIT, no offset for the transmit, nothing. So I couldn't use it basically. And I mean, there's no way you could run a net like that or anything. So the next day I took that thing back and I said, hey, I want my stuff back. This thing no good. So this place didn't care. They were a big TV repair outlet for TV repairmen, and they had this little room for hams that they traded stuff around, and they were real nice to me. So they just said, fine, have it back. And I think I ended up swapping the A1 for an A2, 75A2, and then later on got an HQ-170, and that was it for quite a while. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
WB4NKL. I don't know if I ever tried to run that national on CW. I was doing sideband then, and I did run it mobile. I got a base station power supply with it, and I built a mobile supply from scratch. Even wound the little inverter transformer, took an old TV flyback transformer and wound a transformer and a couple big old transistors and inverted power supply for it. That was one of my earlier projects, and it worked. Had it on probably in my 64 Oldsmobile mobile on 40 meters, and played around with that some. Larry'd done the same thing. He built a power supply for something he had. That was a sort of a joint project. We both built power supplies for sideband rigs. And the Heathkit deal, they were kind of expensive, but they had those time payments. I owed them money for years. I think I paid them about $30 a month, and I built the 101, and then I bought a SB220, and then I built some of their hi-fi gear. But I made the time payments, and probably paid them $30, $35 a month for a few years. That was a good way to good way to go. They'd go ahead and ship it to you, and you just made them payments. A good deal on the digging the basement. My dad did that little house that we lived in when I was a kid. He'd done it before I was born, but he dug a basement and poured the floor, concrete block or cinder blocks, and put a furnace in the basement. Whole deal. And when time I come around, I thought it'd always been there, but he'd dug it out with a mule, and he had a sled. He had a mule trained to back in under the house with a sled of some kind he'd build on it. Said he run into slate. Had to use a little bit of dynamite, Steve. But it was a full-size basement, and you couldn't tell it wasn't built with a house. But we moved from there when I was about 6 years old to build another house. But pretty good project. I don't think people attempt those type projects nowadays. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Well, that's an interesting story. You know, that was in 1973 when I started my basement project, and the XYL was pregnant, and we basically had to have some more room. I mean, we were just running out of room. I got 2 kids in a 2-bedroom house, and so I decided to do the basement. Now, we were kind of on a slope, and you could walk in the back. They had sort of a makeshift door on the back in the blocks, and you could actually walk into the back, and then immediately it would slope up, dirt, you know, just pure dirt. And they had one of those horizontal gas furnaces. It was forced air, but it was hanging underneath. That's pretty much all that was under there, and some columns of different lengths to hold the house up. Well, so I said, this is going to be fun. So I got my wheelbarrow, and I started digging, and a pick, and that dirt was hard as a rock. Of course, it was old, and old and hard, and there was big rocks in it, and they had dumped concrete, cleaned out the concrete truck or something, and had these big blobs of concrete about 3 feet in diameter. I had to roll those out the back door. And so, of course, I was teaching school, and I told my students, I said, if you guys want to make a little extra money, I'll pay you. Come over to my house and dig. So on the weekends, they come over and help me. And I estimated that we took out 100 tons of dirt, and I had a place to put it way back behind the house, and it was probably, 2 feet deep, and it settled quite a bit. I spread it out, and all by hand, planted a garden in that stuff. Now, that dirt had been under the house for probably 20 years, and I could not believe the crop that I got the next year of corn and beans. It was lush. I mean, and I didn't think it would grow at all, but it really grew in that dead dirt that had been without sunlight for 20 years. So anyway, I got that dug out, and of course my dad had a fit. He said, "Son, bad things are going to happen. It's going to cave in." So I think his dad had done the same thing, and it did cave in on him, and he had all kinds of trouble. But I dug up within 3 feet of the existing wall. Well, it wasn't a wall, it was the footer. I dug within 3 feet of it and kind of left a shelf all the way around. And then when I dug another footer inside of that and built up concrete blocks up to the top of the dirt and put plastic over that, and then my studs went on top of my new wall, and then I put paneling over that. Of course, I had somebody come in and pour the floor, and they did a beautiful job on it. I put down put down the drain pipe and some gravel and plastic and then concrete, and that floor was dusty dry, man. It stayed dry down there. And anyway, that came out really good, and I was real happy with how it worked out. And we got ready to sell it about 3 years later, and the people that were buying it, they used FHA, I believe, and they had to send an inspector out and look at it. And of course they measured everything, and I happened to be there when they were doing it. And the guy, the inspector, came over to me. He said, "I can't figure out why this house, it seems like it's bigger upstairs than it is downstairs." And I said, "That beats me, I don't know." WB4NKL, N4LQ.
Yeah, I guess that's the best policy on there, on that. That sounds like you did a good job on it. And I don't think we never did have any trouble on that house. That house is still here, not too far from here. I hadn't been in it since I was 6 years old. I'd like to go. I think it's empty now. The old guy that was living there passed away. I'd like to go in and look at that again. See how it's held up over all these years. Dad, he didn't care, tackle anything like that. I guess I got some of that from him. He built barns and houses and a little bit of everything. It's just the way he did it back in the day. He didn't call contractors. Steve, I got another call from the house. 6 o'clock. I guess she's got supper ready. Land's in great shape, and we're the only ones here, evidently. Be a good time to get on the radio. Might catch you later on if you're going to be around. Enjoyed it. 73s for now. WB4NKL.
Roger, I'll tell you about the XYL passing hot dogs down through the furnace ducts, which we had taken out, and feeding the crew. That took a year to dig out, by the way, exactly a year of digging. All right, enjoy your meal. We'll talk to you later, Cliff. WB4NKL, N4LQ.